Firstly, welcome back to London.
Thank you.
How does it feel to be back?
Amazing. Took me all of 10 minutes to get used to being back in London.
So good. Your distinguished career as a board-level HR practitioner spans multiple multinational corporations, including most recently as the Chief HR Officer at Adidas, based in Germany, and prior to that in senior leadership roles at BNP Paribas and JP Morgan Chase. Notably, in 2022, you were also honoured with the Female All-Star Board Award for Handelsblatt and Bain & Co. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct, yes.
In your previous roles, you've often found yourself as the sole diverse voice on the board, navigating the complexities of bringing unique perspectives to the boardroom. Can you share insights into some of the challenges you've faced in this regard and the strategies you've used to overcome them?
Yes, thank you. So good evening, everyone. It's a real honour to be here in commemoration, I guess, or in celebration of International Women's Day next week. So I think, to answer your question, Param, I think first and foremost, one has to acknowledge the journey, but I think also the huge opportunity to be in that room at a decision-making table and being part of an organisation and giving your own view and, of course, trying to also give views of others. And therein lies the big accountability when you have the privilege to be in such a role. But there also is a danger, and this is the real danger of the C-suite. And I as an ex-board member, I think I can talk a little bit more openly now. But often, executives that work their way up into organisations have a set of behaviours that they use, and those behaviours have served them well throughout their career. And some are good. You see them in senior executives today, and some are ones that are less good. But that network and that ability often to be with individuals who look like you, who perhaps have gone to the same school, or perhaps even have had a length of tenure together in an organisation, creates a very strong bond, an ease, a comfort with one another. And on one side that's very good, but on the other side it can create a bit of a group think. And so what happens is when someone like me gets to a board level, I completely buck the trend on nearly every single dimension. I have a very different background, very little similarities with individuals at that level, a different ethnicity, a different upbringing, but most importantly, a different frame of reference. And so I feel that that is something that's very important to mention, because that means that you are the person continually giving a different opinion. And that lone voice often means that it's a voice of difference, but it's also a voice that probably is not a consensus-driven voice. And that takes courage, but it also takes not only bringing your own perspective, but also trying to represent those who are not in the room. And I think that is a burden that often sits on the shoulders of the only one, either the only woman or the only ethnic diverse individual there. It really falls on your shoulders. So that takes quite a lot of energy, and sometimes I use the analogy, the annoying mosquito, because things are being said and you're like, I'm here, and then sorry, I've got a little issue with that one, and then I'm over here because I've got another issue with that, and that really does take a lot of energy because it's sapping, and of course there's challenge. So one example I'll give you, Param, because you asked specifically, was I remember during my early tenure at Adidas, we were having a discussion. Now, often discussions, because of also my role being head of people and culture, I would bring in people topics, and we were talking about top talents. It's around 5 to 7% of the organisation, a total of 62,000 people at Adidas. And we were talking about top talents and at the board, and the board members were saying, well, if we ask a top talent, we've identified them as a top talent, we've told them they're a top talent. If we ask them to move geographical location, i.e. want to give them a mobility to broaden out their responsibilities and experience, and they say no, that's okay. But if they say no twice, we take them off the talent list. And everyone was like, yes, agree. And I was like, sorry, can I just say something? And of course I had to challenge this. And I said, I understand that, you want to have this international mobility, but I think you're forgetting that a large proportion of our talents, it wasn't 50%, but still a high proportion, are females, and they have parental responsibilities, as do the males, but they also have additional caring responsibilities, and they have often set up a network around themselves, friends, family, those kind of networks, to ensure that they can be successful, be a person at work, but also be the carer at home. And I think we need to also remember you can't just pick up your life and go somewhere else because we say, as a board, you need to move countries. I got a lot of challenge. And I suddenly kept thinking, why aren't they getting my point of view? And then it struck me that, of course, I was sitting with 5 white German males, whose wives didn't work. So they didn't understand it. And there also lies the energy you need, because you have to explain and you have to give context and you have to also bring people along their journey. And that takes a lot of insight and also empathy. And sometimes you can get a little bit frustrated, but it's really important to give that additional context and frame of reference, because it's not their fault, they're just underexposed to that kind of thinking. And it's, I believe, certainly where I was at that time, in that moment, in that room, it was my job to do that. So I think that's just an example of how it can be. I think the other thing is, and as we are talking about International Women's Day, I think it's very important to bring up a difference between males and females, not that we, of course, didn't know that, but I think there's a very interesting piece of research that just came out in the US by Wet Cement, and it spoke to, so it is US research, but I think it's very applicable for the UK as well, and it spoke to men and it asked them about what were the things they associate with fearlessness. So fearlessness in your career, and for men it was around leadership promotion, it was around salary increase, it was around status, but also paying it forward to others. But this is the interesting thing: for females, it was around career advancement, work-life balance, and having an ability to be able to do the many roles that women have, and also making sure there was a well-being aspect to it. And I think this is a really interesting, very recent piece of research, but again, it highlights that there is a genuine difference, and the male language is often about risk-taking and moving forward, whereas our female language is often about being in a role that's unsupportive, but also we're not also very good at communicating what we want, and this is a double whammy from my perspective. So I think, to end, I would say that in my 30-year career in human resources, both in investment banking and also in now the consumer sector, I think that women have been successful in the workplace in spite of the workplace. And I would really like a time when the workplace is the supportive environment and the sticky system that keeps women in the workplace.
Thank you, Amanda.